everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be swatching new lip products. They came out with their cherry tinted sticks. There's a total of 6 shades, so I did get all of them. Start off with the packaging, it kind of reminded me of their Dewy Faux Water tint. You can see here it looks quite similar to each other, sort of this boxy type of packaging. It is a little bit more small and petite, but it has a very beautiful gradient type of body. The cap is sort of this like wave-like packaging. This is a stick packaging, so you pull the cap and then you have the product itself. Comes in this very slim type of packaging. You can twist to get the product out and also twist and reverse to put it back down. So a little bit about this product, it claims to have a very nice glossy finish. It also gives you that transparent like gloss. It's also supposed to give this like pudding like type of texture on your lips. It's supposed to be very moisturizing, and also is supposed to have a stain as well. So starting off first, we have shade number 1, Bare Pumpkin. This is described as being a nude beige orange color. I'm assuming that it is a warm tone color. Because of the pumpkin orange in this, it does lean more towards being a warm tone shade. It does look quite similar to the Gradient's promotion photo. You sort of have this milky brown type of color. I'd say this is like the light and sheer version of Ginger Milk Tea from Etude. Or Nude to Heart, so I'm gonna swatch some later on. So you sort of have this ginger beige type of color. On the hand swatch, it did look very sheer, so I was a little bit worried that I was not gonna like the color payoff, but surprisingly on the lips, once you swatch it, you do have a very beautiful and tinted sheer color. It's going to make a very subtle difference to your lips, at least for the Gradient's look. You want a little bit of color on your lips, but still want it to look natural. The Gradient's look is going to give you that finish. On the hand swatch, I couldn't really see much of the formula, just knowing that it's going to be glossy. But swatching on the lips, it actually looks a lot better than I thought. You sort of have this glaze-like Tang Hoodoo gloss finish. It's going to look more candy-like, but it's still going to give you that very nice juicy pout. Surprisingly, it is quite moisturizing as well, even for the Gradient's look. On the lips, it doesn't feel grainy at all. And so it's giving really good moisturization to my lips inside out, not just on the surface. There's not much blurring for the wrinkles of your lips, but it does give a very nice juicy pout. Overall, it gives a very beautiful and healthy glowy finish. The formula definitely went beyond my expectations. This would be really good to wear on top of other products. Also, if you want a little bit of a glossy finish to your lips and just add a little bit of color. You can see that on all different angles, it has a very nice glossy finish on the cupid's bow, on the edges of my lips, but also on the bottom part as well, in the center here. Very flattering and glowy. In addition to that, it also feels very lightweight. Compared to the Glassy Melting Balms, they also have a chart. There's a chart comparing these two and the differences of each, but basically the Glassy Melting Balm is a lot more thick. This is a lighter version of it. For the sheer tinted sticks, it's definitely a lot more lightweight. It does seem to have more of an oil-like formula to it. Because of how thick it is, the Glassy Melting Balms sometimes has buildup, or it gets a little bit stringy. You can blot it and it's okay. The tinted sticks, however, because it doesn't have much of that waxy formula, it doesn't have buildup and it doesn't get stringy. One thing about Roman is that they barely have scents for the lip tints, and it also includes this one. You can barely smell it. It's very mild. Alright, so this is the full lake. It get a little bit more pigmented. You still have that ginger beige color. For the Gradient's look, it looks like a lighter tinted sheer color, but for the full look, it looks like a neutral tone. The muteness of this looks a little bit more neutral for my skin tone. It doesn't make me look pale, and it actually looks quite good for my natural beige skin tone. I thought it was gonna be a little bit too sheer, so I was nervous, but for the full look, it actually looks really flattering. Color payoff is not bad as well. For Romance, even though it claims to be a sheer shade, you still have a little bit of color the more that you apply. So color builds up, does take a few layers, but you will be able to get a very nice neutral toned / mute shade. Also, it looks quite similar to the promotional pictures. I'd say it looks a lot better in person. It's not too yellow, it's not too orange. Again, it has that glazed-like glistening gloss finish to give you that very beautiful candy-like juicy pout. And for the full look, it didn't really cover up the wrinkles on my lips, just a little bit, so I'd say it semi-blurs the wrinkles of your lips. However, it's going to give you that very nice tangerine type of juicy finish. For the full, you can see that it did get a lot more glossy. Even for the Gradient's look, it was very glossy. Let's go ahead and do the stain test. Okay, so you can see that I did transfer quite a bit on the first one. There's a little bit of a stain on my lips, but honestly, there's not much. I will try with other shades because this is a lighter shade. Here's a quick hand swatch. I have Bare Pumpkin at the bottom, Nude to Heart, and then Ginger Milk Tea from Etude. You can sort of see they have a very similar ginger beige type of color. For Bare Pumpkin, it does seem to have a little bit more of a peachy undertone, so it's not as warm. This will look really good for anyone who's warm tone or neutral tone as well, because the Nude to Heart does have a little bit more orange or like a cinnamon brown to it, and ginger milk tea as well. Next up, we have number 2, Bunny Hop. A very fun name. This is described as being a clear pink color, and it is a cool tone shade as well. Again, this does look quite similar to the promotional pictures. Sort of have this mauve pink color. It sort of reminds me of Mooly and Custom Mauve. For the gradients look, again, it is quite sheer, but you can sort of see this like mauve pink type of color, which is really good for fall. Very beautiful natural finish for the gradients look. Okay, so now for the full, you can see more of a pigmented shade. You can see the shade color a lot better. It does look quite different from their promotional pictures for the full look. You sort of have this mauve purple shade. And because it is a cool tone shade, it does seem to have more of a lilac purple color to it the more that you apply. I wasn't expecting much, but on the lips, it looks so good. Gives a very nice pigmentation. I really like the build-up of the color of this, because although when you apply it, it is quite sheer, but when you keep applying layers, you can see the transformation. You can see the transformation of the product getting darker on the lips. Very beautiful, seamless, and even application, even for shades that are a little bit darker like this one. Recently, I reviewed Etude's. These two formulas are quite similar to each other. I'd say that Romance definitely has a better finish. For Etude's, I find that it was a little bit uneven on the lips, like it would seep into the wrinkles on my lips, but for Romance, it doesn't do that at all. It gives a very beautiful, even application. I'm going to be comparing these more at the end of the video, but I wanted to include that before I forget. So this is Bunny Hop. If you're into like a lilac purple type of color, I recommend this. There does seem to be a little bit of a stain left the longer that you wear it. Alright, next up, this is shade number 3, Toffee Berry. This is described as being a pink-red shade. If I didn't read the description, I probably wouldn't know that this is a pink-red color. It looked a little bit similar to the previous one, sort of this mauve pink color. But the difference between this one and the previous one is that it has more pink in it, and it seems to have less purple. But knowing that this is a pink-red color now, I think it might get more rosy the more that I apply. You will see it does look quite similar to the promotional pictures. I do personally like this one more because Bunny Hop was a little bit too cool toned. It also describes this as a grapefruit pink color, so I guess that's why it's sort of this pink red. For these darker shades, you can see that it does have a lot of pigmentation. I do find that for these, they don't really oxidize as much. It do take a few seconds for the shade to kind of layer, but overall, what you apply on your lips is what you're going to get. So it's really good to control the color. It also doesn't have a red stain, as we saw earlier from the transfer test. So back to the shade color, the more they apply, the more mauve pink you're going to see. So compared to number 2, Bunny Hop, it does have more purple, but for this shade number 3, Toffee Berry, it does have more of a pink. Yeah, it does have more of a pink base. So here's the hand swatch with Toffee Berry at the bottom, Custard Mauve in the middle, and then Bunny Hop on top. Really similar to each other. You can barely see a difference between Bunny Hop and Toffee Berry, except for their slight undertone, which might be a little bit difficult to see in the camera. And here's Bare Grip at the bottom here. You can see it's a little bit more mute than Toffee Berry, because Toffee Berry is a little bit more bright. Also, Bunny Hop does look a little bit more bright as well. The longer that you wear, the better the stain is for these products. It doesn't feel drying. Alright, next up, this is for Camel Nuts. It's described as being a brown red nutty brown color. When I read this description, I thought of Canyon, and on the lip swatch there doesn't seem to be much of a red color yet that's coming through, at least for the gradients look. It does seem to look more like a Nucademia color, sort of this like nutty brown. This is also labeled as a warm tone color. Sort of see this brown color with a little bit of a pink undertone. So now we have the full look. It looks so flattering and beautiful. It looks a lot better than the promotional pictures. Surprising it's not too warm tone. I think it does lean more towards being a neutral shade, slightly warm. Combination of this formula and the shade just looks so beautiful and luxurious. Very, very similar formula to YSL. Here's a hand swatch with Camel Nuts at the bottom, Canyon on top, and then Nucademia. The Nucademia and Camel Nuts do look quite similar to each other. I'd say Nucademia can probably oxidize a little bit darker. Canyon in the middle, it does oxidize the darkest, but it does seem to have a little bit of a rosy undertone. Alright, next up we have number 5, Dutch Cocoa. This is also described as being a red-brown shade, sort of this mute brown color. You can see compared to the previous one, this is a lot more deep and darker. Maybe I went a little bit overboard for the gradients, but you can sort of see it has this like very dark chocolate. I think instead of being a red shade, I'm getting more of a purple undertone, like sort of this grape cherry. After the fold, we have a more pigmented brown shade, and again, very different from the promotional pictures. It's a lot more dark and mute. Overall, you're gonna have more of a brown shade, but it does have a very subtle pink purple undertone. There's a hand swatch with Dutch Cocoa at the bottom and Almond Rose on top. Overall, they have a very similar muteness, but you can see Almond Rose does seem to be a little bit more rosy. For Dutch Cocoa, it does have a little bit more brown slash purple in it. However, they do look quite similar to each other. I'd say this is the closest match that I could find. Alright, last but not least, we have shade number 6 in Vinery. This is described as being a grape red plum shade. A little bit similar to the previous one in muteness, but this does have more purple in it. It doesn't have any brown in it whatsoever. It looks a lot more grape-like in person. This doesn't seem to have much black in it, so it's going to look more like a grape purple. So for the full look, we have a more pigmented grape-like color, very different from the promotional pictures as well. It definitely looks a lot more deep and mute in person. For the full look, there's a slight black in it, but overall it's going to have more purple. Alright, I'm going to do an intro and outro lip. I'm going in with number 1, Bare Pumpkin, as my base. Because it is officially fall, I'm going to be applying number 4. So my final thoughts on these, they went way beyond my expectations. I actually wasn't expecting much from these. Maybe that's because I wasn't expecting much from it from the hand swatch after swatching the hand swatch, but applying on the lips is a whole new different experience. First of all, I'd say there were quite a variety of shades. Some of them did look similar to each other, but they did have a difference in the base color. And I think most of these, there were a few shades that are difficult to match with, and most of these are shades that they do already have, that Roman already has in other collections. But with that said, I'd say the formula is definitely worth it. I'd say the formula is similar to a mixture of Juicy Lasting Tint and Lasting Melting Balm. It has more of an oil-like formula and lightweight, similar to Juicy Lasting Tint, but it does come in a stick version to Lasting Melting Balm. It does have a very beautiful glossy finish like Lasting Melting Balm. If you find that Lasting Melting Balm is too thick for you, I would definitely recommend the tinted sticks. The sheer tinted sticks are very, very lightweight. The Melting Balms are a little bit slightly more glossy according to the chart, but both have a very beautiful glossy finish. Compared to Etude's Glow Stick, it's a lot more moisturizing than Etude's. It moisturizes from the inside out. What I find for Etude's only moisturizes on the surface of your lips. The color pigmentation is also a lot better, has even application. It's a lot better to build up because you can do a sheer layer, but it's really easy to create a gradient look and a full. For Etudes, I find it a little bit difficult to build up the color. It's also harder to have an even application. For Romance, it does have a slight melting function when you apply on your lips, so it doesn't feel rough when you're applying it. As you know, my favorite shade is number 4, Camel Nuts. Just so beautiful, similar to Nucademia and Kenyan, but without the oxidation. Really good shades to transition to fall, but if you're still in your summer phase, you can transition slowly into the fall shades that they have. Lots of good MLB shades. I haven't been a big fan of glossy lip balms or lipsticks, but I would have to say that these are sheer tinted sticks from Romance has got to be my favorite. It's everything that I would imagine for a lipstick. So that's all for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.